What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Hangout spot where you already know it's real talk, boxing talk, live from my man cave. It's your boy Johnny, and I'm your host for another edition of the Hangout spot live. This time, the Tuesday night edition.
Let's go, champ.
Let's get ready to rumble. And I just want to thank everybody for rocking out on this wonderful Tuesday night. And man, oh man, we got one hell of a show in store for you. You already know how we do it up here at the Hangout spot with the interviews, but it doesn't get any bigger than the gentleman that we're going to have on, a true icon of the sport, not just of boxing, but of sport broadcasting in general. We got over 5 decades of sports broadcasting brilliance, the voice of boxing and one of my idols. That's right, we got the legendary Jim Lampley in the building. And I'm excited, man. Hopefully you guys are as well. Before we bring in our guests, though, you guys know the rules here at the Hangout spot. If you're watching this live on YouTube, make sure you smash that like button. That's what will help get this channel out into the algorithm of other boxing fans so they know we rock out weeknights, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you're watching this live on Facebook and millions.co, make sure you shoot a like out. More importantly, come on over to the channel and subscribe to the Hangout spot, man. There are power in numbers. We're trying to turn this train into a locomotive. In order for us to do that, we're going to need more passengers so that we can get the bigger and best interviews for you. You know how we do it up here at the Hangout spot. And last but not least, you know how we do here. Make sure you guys cook up in the chat, man. Talk it up in the chat. But if you do have a question for our guests at some point throughout this legendary conversation, again, Super Chat is the way to go. It's going to be a lot of activity in the chat, and Super Chats come up as a starred message. So again, time permitting, we'll see if we can get all your questions in, but Super Chat is the way to get a question in. But let me tell you something. I spent 2 days trying to muster up some questions, man, because it doesn't get any better than this. It's not all the time, man, that you have a guy like me, man, that was just, from the hood in Brooklyn, that gets a chance to sit down with a true icon, a GOAT in his profession, man. So it's an absolute honor to have my guest tonight, Mr. Jim Lampley, is in the building. What's going on, Jim Lampley?
Hey, it's great to be in the Hangout spot. I understand this is an opportunity to talk boxing. I don't turn them down. So thank you very much, Johnny. Thanks for that highly complimentary introduction. I'll be, as intent as I can be on doing whatever I can to live up to all that smoke. I mean, let's keep this audience going, right?
Like I told you in the backstage, we're going to put our aprons on and we're going to cook tonight. We're going to cook.
I said, I don't know about the apron, but I'm sure you're going to cook.
Oh, listen, man, we're going to cook. Like I said, you're one of my idols. I grew up watching you. You are the true voice of boxing. But let's take before we get started, Jim, I just want to go through these accolades, man. Decades of sports broadcasting brilliance, over 30 years as the face of HBO Championship Boxing, which is what I grew up on, as the blow-by-blow guy side by side with some of the legendary names in the sport like Harold Letterman, Larry Merchant, George Foreman, Roy Jones, Max Kellerman. I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, I don't know if there's anybody that you haven't either worked with or called a fight for, but you were also the first college football sideline reporter, which was very, very impressive when I read your new book that I have here, and it is autographed by the great Jim Lampley. It happened, and we're going to talk about that in a little while, but you've also covered a whopping 14 Olympic Games from 1976 to the year 2008, and you work for every major network, ABC, NBC, HBO. Is there anything you haven't accomplished in the sporting world? We'll just open it up to you right now and just get that out of the way.
Sure, my I mean, there are a fair number of things that I would have liked to accomplish and might have been in position in some ways to accomplish. I did go to 14 Olympics, and that adds up to more Olympics assignments than any other lucky American broadcaster. I was very lucky in that regard. I spent a lot of time in the host chair at the Olympics, but I was never the primetime host. My dear friend Bob Costas was ahead of me at NBC Sports, and by far the logical choice to be the primetime host there. I left ABC at about the time that Jim McKay was aging out, so I lost any possibility of being his successor there. So if you were to ask me, what's the one thing that could have happened that didn't happen that I wanted to happen, it would be that I would have loved to have been the primetime host of the Olympics. But it sounds a little bit, precious and self-conscious to say, oh, gee, it's too bad I was only the daytime host for hundreds of hours or the late night host for several Olympics. Those are good gigs. And at the end of the day, I have to be overwhelmingly grateful for every good thing that happened to me in sports broadcasting, because a lot of it was counterintuitive. A lot of it could easily have gone the other way. I had a lot of good fortune and great associations with great human beings that helped me to do all the things I was lucky enough to do in my close to 50 years of network television work.
Well, I'll tell you, Jim, and I'm sure I speak for all the boxing fans around there, including the Hangout Spot family. We are grateful for you, for gracing us with your presence for so many years. Again, just being the voice of boxing. I grew up watching HBO boxing, and I was ecstatic when I found out that you were making your return recently on that Riyadh card, May 2nd, Times Square, New York City. When I heard about that, I was like, damn, it doesn't get any bigger. I mean, Turkey is going all out. He's bringing out the big guns here. That's what I'm talking about. And Jim, I was looking so forward to that event. I really was. The fights on paper, I was excited about. And then all of a sudden the night happened. And
It
I
happened.
wasn't, yeah, and I wasn't.
It just goes to show you that sometimes paper lies, because I was excited about those fights on paper too. And I thought that this is not going to devolve into us watching counterpunchers stand and look at each other without throwing punches. But at the end of the day, that's what happened. And so it was highly unfortunate. I felt bad for me that I didn't have any great action to call. But I did feel good to be back in the chair and doing what I most like to do.
So tell me how this came about, because again, we hadn't heard from you for a little while.
Turkey Al Sheikh. I mean, that's all you have to know. I had no inkling that I might be headed back toward ringside blow by blow. I had been going to a fair number of fights for a brand new nascent enterprise called PPV.com. PPV.com, developed by a genius woman from Hollywood named Dale Hopkins, puts 4 knowledgeable experts, quote unquote, at ringside to deliver live chat on the fight. And the viewers who buy the pay-per-view are invited to join the live chat. So we're all sharing back and forth with each other. And it became me, Chris Algieri, Lance Pugmire, and Dan Canobio of the CompuBox family. Interesting mixture of 4 people. We did a pretty good job, I think, chatting through a lot of fights. I was happy to be back at the fights and happy to be back at the media room talking to fighters, but I still wasn't calling blow by blow. And then the night of David Morrell versus David Benavides, I was seated at ringside for PPV.com, and 2 or 3 media people, writers, came over to me holding their cell phones out and saying, have you seen this? Did you see this? And what this was a post, an X post. I'm not on X. It was a post on X from Turkey Al Sheikh, and it was a picture of me. And he had a caption there that said, I would like for Jim Lampley to call fights for me. So eventually, Rick Reno, who runs Ring Magazine for Turkey, came over and said, do you want me to answer for you? And I said, yeah, sure. Tell him I'd be happy to talk to him. And that led to a meeting in New York with Turkey, and he very ardently asked if I would call the May 2 card, and I was excited to be coming back. And then the fights fizzled. But that sometimes happens in boxing. But I got to work with Antonio Tarver, whom I knew obviously from his career and his great one-punch knockout of Roy Jones, and Mike Coppinger, who is the breaking news reporter working daily for Ring Magazine. Both good guys, both very authoritative and knowledgeable. I had not realized before how energetic and outspoken an expert commentator Tarver can be. Loved working with him. And you know that I've worked with many great expert commentators in the past, whether you're talking about Foreman or Emmanuel Stewart or Roy Jones or Ray Leonard, all those people, various others. So, it's always meaningful to me who it is I'm getting to work with. I loved working with Tarver. Coppinger's very good. And, we'll see. I haven't yet run across a situation where I know that I'm going to call another fight next for Turkey. But, he thanked me that night, and I appreciated that.
Well, I could definitely foresee you coming back if you wanted to. He'd be crazy not to bring you back. We're talking here with the legend, the voice of boxing, Jim Lampley. Again, make sure you guys smash that like button. So that whole experience, like I said, coming into it, I was intrigued because it was something that we had never seen before. I mean, literally a ring in the middle of the street in Times Square. But then when the night unfolded, it was weird, right? Because they gated off. There was only a certain amount of fans that were allowed, by ringside seated.
Well, I think there were only 350 fans seated. It was I forget whether it was 850 or 350, but it was a small number. And the place has its own dominant presence. And you're surrounded by buildings. There are a small number of spectators. You're enclosed. There's still traffic going in multiple directions, down the block, around the block, et cetera, et cetera. It was a distracting environment. And maybe, I don't know what prompted the performances we saw in the ring, but I don't think the environment turned out to be ideal for boxing.
So that's exactly where I was going with this, because me watching it on TV, and again, fighters are a creature of habit, right? To me, it seemed very, very quiet. There was a lot going on. They didn't really, in my opinion, seem that comfortable if they would have been inside of
riding to the ring in taxi cabs, which is a great theatrical idea. But you are 100% correct that they are creatures of habit. And the walk to the ring has a rhythm of its own. Your trainer is walking with you. Your cut man is behind you, et cetera, et cetera. It's not the same thing. So I think there were a lot of things that were different that may or may not have had something to do with the performance. There's really no way to know. You'd have to go back and run the whole thing again as a lab experiment and do further research to try to figure it out. But at the end of the day, it did not compute to great, exciting fights. And I think the absence of a crowd is big. You look at the history of boxing in New York, some of the greatest and most exciting fights in history have taken place outdoors in New York with the right kind of crowd. And so what we didn't get Joe Louis knocking out Max Schmeling in the first round in 1938 in Yankee Stadium, and in a national revenge fight that had enormous political importance. We didn't get Jack Dempsey and Luis Angel Firpo trading knockdowns in the Polo Grounds. We didn't get any of those moments, and I think it was unlucky. I know it wasn't my fault. I was certainly eager to see great fights. I was eager to call them, but it was what it was.
And you know what I love about you, Jim? You were honest. During the broadcast.
I had to be. And I was concerned enough afterward that I went to my most trusted boxing writer, the ringside writer with the most clout, who I think is important to listen to. And I asked that person, "So what did you think?" And he looked at me and he said, "You were Jim Lampley. That's the highest compliment I can pay." And I think that that's what you most should want to hear. There was no difference. You were Jim Lampley. You did what Jim Lampley would do in that situation. So that's good. Thank you. If I could be away as long as I was away and come back and be basically myself, that's what you ought to be shooting for.
I think that you're real, absolutely, and you kept it real that night, and that's one of the things, like I said, that I appreciated about your comeback.
You can't lie to viewers.
Right.
I mean, you can't, right. Even less than viewers per se. You can't lie to boxing fans. Yeah, there's no way to lie to boxing fans. They are like truth machines. So you gotta stick with reality and observe exactly what you see.
I'm glad you brought up the whole absence of a crowd because when I said that to some viewers, they thought I was crazy. But I do believe in momentum. This is a sport. These guys are athletes. They're human. They can feed off momentum. And I just didn't feel that there
Chemical
was any
energy.
fear.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what crowds are for. When
Yeah.
when a crowd roars, athletes perform at a higher level. It's
Right.
just it's human nature. You know, you want to hear people cheering for you.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why I like what Turkey's doing. He's thinking outside the box. But I think just like anybody that's putting out a product, you got to listen to the public, right? Because we're the paying consumer, right? Take our feedback.
If you conduct 6 experiments
Right.
and you've done it right, you're going to learn 6 things. So I'm sure he learned something that night. And I'm sure that whatever they do to try to emulate that or reproduce it in the future, it'll be better because it'll involve a thought process and some adjustments that will help it to be a better spectator event.
That being said, I want him to continue to think outside the box, but more of a traditional type of thing. Again, man, stay in the arena, stay with the big crowds, let the fans get a hand in what's going on. It's almost like they were barricaded off at the, at the corner of 42nd Street. I mean, again, there's a lot of things that I liked about it coming in, but they got to do better. And I think they will. The thing I do like about Turkey, and I'm sure you'd agree, is he's trying to fit the best against the best because he's a fan of boxing. So I appreciate him.
Put it in the Woolman rink a few blocks away. More space for spectators and the chance for them to participate. Put it in Central Park, in the place in Central Park where Simon and Garfunkel played to 150,000 people, something like that, one night. You know, there are many outdoor spots in New York City. Put it up at Randall's Island. Put it in Flatbush Park. There are a lot of places you can be. But it did not work the right way that night. So you're right. He tried something different. We applaud him for that. Now let's see what revisions are necessary to make it a better event the next time around.
Before we go back in time, though, again, I just want to get your perception on what's going on today because boxing is different, Jim. It's different from the era that I grew up in. It's different from when you started 30 years ago or 30 some odd years ago on championship boxing. And it's more of a lot of posturing, right? Guys picking and choosing their opponents. Some of them want to preserve their it's about the money bag. It just doesn't seem a lot about legacy from my perspective as a fan. Would you agree with that? And if you do, what's changed?
Well, what's changed in one respect is money. They don't have to, the big stars, they don't have to fight more than 2 or 3 times a year. They can get away with fighting 1 time a year, and they're going to make enough money to continue to support their business operation and the way that they want to be. When I first started calling fights, let me take that back. When I first started watching fights on Gillette Friday Night Fights in 1955, in the Genesis era of network television. In those days, if you were Sugar Ray Robinson or Yama Bahama or Curtis Cokes, any of the fighters that I watched habitually at the beginning on Gillette Friday Night Fights, you were hoping to fight 8, 9 times a year. You know, you weren't fighting every 3 or 4 months. You were fighting once a month or every month and a half or whatever. Sometimes even more than that. And so there was a different rhythm to the lifestyle. Now they fight and they go do something else for 6 months. They're in the gym, they're working, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But your intensity is much, much higher when you're 1 week away from a fight. In 1955, the fighters that I was watching, they were 1 week away from a fight 8, 9 times a year. And so it was a different life and produced a different kind of performance and activity. I still think that the best fighters, the greatest fighters, are the smartest and most well-conditioned athletes in the world. But they are exhibiting those qualities and those attributes on a far more limited basis than used to be the case. And some of that is having learned over time that there's a cranial effect from being hit over and over and over. And if you can reduce the number of times you get hit in any given year and still make the same amount of money, that's probably a smart idea. So you get, for instance, Floyd Mayweather, who was clearly the greatest and most effective fight winner in the sport, but not an entertainer, other than outside the ring, where he used his social media presence and his web presence so intelligently to keep his audience reeled in and lock them down to loyalty, et cetera, while he was only going into the ring a couple times a year and winning with a style that was more defensive and self-protective than a lot of fans would love to see. You've got to admire Floyd for sticking to his guns and doing it his way. But that was an entirely different thing than Henry Armstrong fighting 3 defenses of the welterweight title in the first month after he won it in some year back in the 30s or 40s.
We'll never see that again, obviously. But so can it change? Will it change? Is it a possibility that we can
everything
go back
changes? But the driving force in changing things now is electronics. All right. How is the fight going to be distributed? What is the economic basis for that level of fight distribution? You know, we're getting to a point, not rapidly, but we're gradually approaching a point where used to be if you were going to fight a galvanizing world attraction fight for a meaningful title in the sport, you were fighting that fight in Las Vegas. Now, more and more often, you're fighting that fight in Riyadh. And that's an entirely different time zone and an entirely different kind of environment with a different kind of crowd. I mean, it's just not the same thing. And if you happen to be a Saudi Arabian, maybe it's tremendously exciting because you're seeing it on your own cultural terms. But Americans can recognize when they're looking at something that's taking place in an entirely different culture. You know, even if Michael Buffer is the ring announcer and everybody in the corners is an American trainer or chief second, at the end of the day, American fight fans know the look, the smell, and the atmosphere of fights that take place in America. And fights that take place in Monte Carlo, I covered them. Fights that take place in London, I covered them. Fights that take place in Montreal, I covered them. They're all in some way different than a fight in Las Vegas or New York or LA.
Great breakdown, man. Again, these are the questions that I wanted to ask you because, you know, I think boxing is the best sport in the world, but I also think it's its own worst enemy because of what you're saying, right? The money aspect, the social media, I think that plays a big part of it as well.
It's a sport constantly in transition. And we have to accept that the sport is constantly in transition because it only involves 2 competitors in the ring at any given time. And so these are not corporately organized institutions. These are individual entrepreneurs who are putting together their own operation, trainer, cut man, et cetera, and they don't come into the ring with a broad-based institutional backing. They come in on their own terms, making their own decisions. There's something thrilling about that, but it's not nearly as simple and predictable as will the Jets beat the 49ers this Saturday. That's a different, broader-based, more organized thing. Here you're talking about individual human beings with all the unpredictable elements that go with that. And again, that's part of the beauty of the sport. But it's a sport that's constantly in transition. And one of the things I always say to people to help them get through all this is, look, boxing is dead. And it's been dead for 120 years. And no matter how many times the general consensus puts it in the grave, it's not going to go away. As long as human beings can walk on this planet and stand up and face each other, men and women are going to fight each other for money. It's a given. It will always be around. But in what form? Who knows? You know, at the end of the day, medical science will continue to take a hand in determining how it's conducted and under what terms, and lots of other things will influence it. Turki al-Sheikh thought that he could deal successfully with the business and governmental structure of New York. If I were to go ask him right now, Turki, did you win any fights with the business and governmental structure of New York? I would think he would have to confess, no, I didn't win the fights that I thought I could win. And that's part of what put us in the position that we were in.
Great breakdown. I'm here with the Hall of Famer and the legendary voice of boxing, Jim Lampley. First of all, Jim, you mentioned the Jets and the 49ers. As a Jet fan, I'm going to tell you they're not winning that game. So, yeah, they're not winning that game. Okay? We'll just record that one right there.
I'm just pulling the Jets out of a hat here, but
funny you mentioned the Jets, and
I
have a
certain connection to the Jets history and background, which is that I attended Joe Namath's last college game in the Orange Bowl in 1964 against Texas, the day before he signed the famous $427,000 contract that blew all of our minds and blew up the economics of professional football. And then I used to park his car at the Kings Bay Yacht and Country Club in Miami when he and George Sauer would come down for recreation and rest, and they would play golf at the Kings Bay Yacht and Country Club, and I would park Joe's car and some other very interesting cars. It was a very colorful club in Miami, but yeah, I go a long way back. And then, of course, all those years in the bars on 3rd and 1st Avenue in New York, and the guys who would come in and share a beer with me there. I knew a lot of Jets.
Okay.
Do you remember a running back named Bill Mathis? I mean, this is before your time, way back in the day. Yeah, Clemson's Bill Mathis. I believe he was on the Namath team, the Super Bowl team that played the Colts. And Bill Mathis was a real good friend of mine in New York.
Awesome. I think this is a good time to go back to where the journey started. But I do want to say that my chat is showing you some love, man. So we just got a couple of comments I want to read. My man, Attorney Bailey, with the $2 super chat. We appreciate you. He said it's an honor to talk to a living legend. He said we need you back.
That's my cousin, Attorney Bailey. First cousin on my mother's side. Thank you very much, Bailey. I appreciate that. Next time let's bid a little higher. David Garcia, $1.99. Where are we going to see you calling another card, David? I don't know. I can't answer that question with any clarity. I hope it's soon. But we all know what card I want to call. Jim is major. Proud of you, Johnny. I'm proud of Johnny too. We're all proud of Johnny tonight.
Well, I appreciate you. Shout out to the Mandalorian for the $2. We got Chad from Canada, because we got viewers from all over. Jim, we got Canada, UK, Australia. Jim, you were the highlight in New York City that night. Thank you. I'm sure Jim would tell you, as good as Jim was, I'm sure Jim would tell you he did not want to be the highlight. He wanted the fight to be the highlight.
That was not my ambition at all. But I do appreciate the comment, Papa Chubby.
Yes, sir. We got Mo Brains with the $50. I appreciate that. Mo Brains for the $50 donation. Good evening, Jim. You had an honor of working with many sporting legends. It's only been mere months since we lost a great gentle giant that was George Foreman. What do you remember?
I want to answer this if I can. Okay.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
And I'm really excited that the question is presented. My book was published on the 15th of, was it April?
April. It was April.
Foreman died 14 days before the publication of the book, exactly 2 weeks to the day.
Wow.
And it was stunning to me, shocking. I know the family. I'm in touch with the family. I received no warning, no inkling whatsoever. I woke up one morning and George was dead. And the title of the book, It Happened, is lifted directly from my call of his knockout of Michael Moorer to win the heavyweight championship at age 45. I worked with him for several years on HBO. He was wary of me at first, and eventually he became a close enough friend that he was a soulful and helpful advisor to me on various meaningful personal issues. He's one of the most cosmically smart and aware human beings I've ever met. No one should ever underestimate the genius of George Foreman. I used to tell people all the time during the last few years he was working on HBO, I would say, you know, George is a genius. And people would say, well, what's your evidence for that? And I would say, okay, look at the bank account. Start with that. All right. He proved himself to be the #1 face-to-face pitch salesman in America. And there was no agent or attorney choosing those products. George chose the products. Meineke mufflers, you know, all of the various things that George sold, big man suits, you know, everything. It was all George. He didn't rely on other people for expert advice and stuff like that. So an amazing person, an amazing human being. It knocked me over with irony that so much of my book is owed to him. By the way, the prologue, the first thing you read in the book, the prologue, is about the 19-year-old me watching the 19-year-old Foreman win his gold medal in Mexico City. I chose that without having any idea that there would be a meaningful connection to him at the moment when the book came out. So very, very high impact, very saddening for me, very striking, and, you know, just a wonderful reminder of what a tremendous friend he became and how many life lessons I learned from George Foreman sitting with him on HBO Boxing.
Absolutely wonderful story. And for my viewers, this is the book here. It Happened, A Uniquely Lucky Life in Sports Television. Jim Lampley's new book. Make sure you guys pick it up, man, because this is a classic book. And Jim was nice enough to autograph me a copy. So I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I will always cherish this bad boy.
I love you, Johnny.
And I love you more, Jim. And hey, listen, I grew up listening to you, man. I listened to you more than I listened to my mom. My mom would tell me she didn't. And you never listened to me, but you know what? I was listening to Jim Lampley.
Well, if you know, I mean, if you've read anything in my book, you know that I listened to my mom, and I owe my mom everything in terms of my television sports career, going down to the granular fact that she was the first person who sat me down to watch a boxing match in 1955, Sugar Ray Robinson versus Bobo Olson for the middleweight championship. And she said, I really want you to pay attention to Sugar Ray Robinson. He's my favorite fighter because he dances when he fights. And I got a huge impression from watching Gillette Friday Night Fights. I got a huge impression from listening to the blow-by-blow of Don Dunphy. Simple, precise, directly effective, no frills, no attempt to self-glorify. And later when I began calling fights at ABC in 1987, and I think you know, Johnny, that I was assigned to boxing in 1987 at ABC Sports by an incoming new chief executive of the sports division who thought it would be a great way to get rid of me, who thought that he could embarrass me and my personal style by putting me on the boxing telecast. He did not realize that his network had just signed a get acquainted, look-see contract with a 19-year-old heavyweight from New York whose name was Mike Tyson. I became the early curator of Tyson on, you know, Wide World of Sports afternoon boxing telecasts on ABC. And then eventually when I finally did leave ABC to get away from that executive, I wound up with an immediate offer to go to HBO to call Tyson's fights at HBO, which is how we wound up in Tokyo in February of 1990 for Tyson versus Buster Douglas. And my other relatively well-known, memorable enough call of the climax of a fight. So it's been an amazing ride, and I've been so lucky along the way to know the people I've known, and certainly George was right up at the top of the list.
Go back to where the journey started, but what inspired you to become a sports broadcaster, Jim?
Nothing inspired me to become a sports broadcaster other than that my mother inspired me to become a sports fan. Bought me season tickets for the University of Miami football games when I was a junior high school and high school kid. Bought season tickets for the Miami Dolphins when they came to town. Would buy me passes to go to the PGA golf tournament that took place in Coral Gables when I was a kid. My mother stretched and stretched and butchered her budget sometimes to give me sports event tickets and see to it that I could go to all of the events that my father would have taken me to if he had not died of cancer when I was 5 years old. The first time she sat me down to watch Gillette Friday Night Boxing with Sugar Ray Robinson and Bubba Olson, she very specifically said, "You're going to do this because if your father was still alive, this is what you would be doing, and he'd be doing it with you." And I've never forgotten that. I owe her so much, and then I remained a sports fan all the way through college. Somehow got out of college despite doing my best to cut my own throat. Wound up winning a talent hunt to become the first person ever to stand on the sideline of a college football game with a camera and a microphone. And on we went from there to the whole 14 Olympics and HBO eventually and all the prize fights and stuff like that. I was very, very fortunate, partially as the result of the things that my mother did to try to help me feel included and loved and fulfilled after my father had died when I was 5 years old.
I mean, it's amazing. Again, you guys have to pick up this book, man. I just want them to
sat at the kitchen table and talked. And she would talk sports with me all day long. She would talk to me about, George Myra's receivers for the Miami Hurricanes and whether this fullback, Russell Smith, was better than Don Bossler, whom they'd had a few years before, and whether we really wanted tickets to the Dolphins games when we knew that they were going to lose every game the first couple of seasons. And she would have all these conversations with me, as though she were my father. And she became enough of a sports fan to continue to push me and prime me and educate me in the right way. And if you read the book, and I know you did, somebody asked me, what's the thing you most want to give us and show us in the book? I said, simple: how much I love my mother, how grateful I am to my mother for making me the person that I became, and how much I wish I had been considerate and thoughtful enough to say it to her in her lifetime. I don't know if she's somewhere where she can read the book, but if that were to happen, she would get a tingly feeling, I hope.
Thank you for sharing your story with us, man. Again, the book is phenomenal. You guys have to pick it up. Just a life long of just legendary stuff, man. All sports, man. But I'm glad that you ended up picking boxing, right? Or boxing found you, so to speak.
Boxing found me. And assigned to it by an executive who wanted to get rid of me. And
the
very first fight.
Everything happens for a reason, Jim.
Huh?
Everything happens for a reason.
Everything happens for a reason. No question about it. I agree, Johnny. And the very first fight I did was Mike Tyson against Jesse Ferguson in Glens Falls, New York. And this was, I was working with an expert commentator named Alex Wallow, an executive at ABC, Greenwich guy, born and raised into the highest class of society, but he loved boxing. He used to go back and forth on the train to the city to go to Gleason's and the other gyms in Manhattan and Brooklyn and see fighters, and he knew the sport inside out. So I'm doing the Tyson-Ferguson fight with him, and this was the famous nosebone fight when Mike threw a perfect uppercut in the 4th or 5th round, I forget which, and there was blood all over the ring. It was a spectacular detonation of Jesse's nose. Mike was 19 at the time. And I remember at the end of the fight, Alex went around the ring to do the post-fight interview with Tyson. And I'm standing next to our announce position. It's the first fight I've called. And he says to Mike, tell me about the uppercut. And Mike said, well, Katamata taught me that the purpose of the uppercut is to drive the opponent's nose bone into his brain. I was trying to drive his nose bone into his brain. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, look at what I've happened onto here, okay? This guy signed me to this stuff so he could get rid of me. This kid is going to become not just the biggest thing in the sports culture. He's going to become the biggest thing in the entertainment world. And a few months later, it happened, okay? And partially because of Robin Givens, but mostly because Mike was Mike. Even though it was this spectacular phenomenon, who was so explosive and so dynamic that everybody bought into the notion that he knocked everybody out all the time, which wasn't the case. People still say that the Douglas upset was the biggest upset in the history of boxing. Look at Mike's year before that. When he went the distance with Tony Tucker, he went the distance with James Quick Tillis. There were scorers at ringside who had Tillis winning. He went the distance with Mitch Blood Green, an average fighter. He went to the last 10 seconds with Jose Ribalta. All of those distance-going performances, and people still bought into the myth that Mike knocked everybody out every time. And then you get to the Douglas fight. Douglas is a 42-1 underdog. He's also 6'4". 235 pounds, a former college basketball player who was a real athlete, motivated to the skies because his mother has just died. He's got a good straight jab. He's got a right hand that he brings way over the top where it's difficult for Mike to see it. And within the first 5 rounds, you're looking at, oh, I get it. These two images don't match.
Right.
And eventually he wipes them out in the 10th round. And that's very much like it happened because I had to think of what to say. And I wound up with the lowest key I could possibly reach, as understated as possible. And the line is, Mike Tyson has been knocked out. In just about that tone of voice. Mike Tyson has been knocked out. And that was it. And I kind of left it there. And I waited years and years and years to get the compliment that I wanted to hear from that. But last year, and what is that? 34 years afterward, Larry Merchant says to me, Jim, it's not just the greatest call in the history of boxing. It's the greatest call in the history of televised sports. And I'm like, Larry, I delivered the greatest call in the history of televised sports sitting next to you in Tokyo, and you waited 34 years to tell me that? And he said, well, I didn't want you to get too big ahead. But yeah, because of the understated quality and because you did not go maniacally out of your mind to try to match the intensity of what people were seeing, you played it down. That's the best call ever. So thank you, Larry. He's still alive. I love him. And I love that he eventually gave me the kind of credit that I had hoped to get when I very studiously sat there and said, okay, am I gonna blow this up? Am I gonna scream about the biggest upset in boxing history, or am I simply going to state the facts and leave it there? Mike Tyson has been knocked out.
Doesn't get any better than that. Speaking of Larry Merchant, you've worked alongside
Larry Merchant,
some of the greats. I mean, one of the questions I wanted to ask you, besides what it was like to work with him, which you just got into, was, do we ever see another Larry Merchant? Because I don't think we do.
It's a very interesting question. Obviously, Max inherited the role, and Max was not a print journalist. Max was an electronic journalist. And okay, you can say, well, there's no big difference. Both are using the English language, et cetera, et cetera. No. Larry was a writer first and an editor first. And there's a studious literary quality in that, an edge toward understatement instead of overstatement that goes sort of in the opposite direction from where Max was. I thought Max was brilliant, and I loved working with him. But as to your question, will we ever see another Larry Merchant? All right, how's this? Will we ever see another Harold Letterman? Will we ever hear another ringside scorer of whom we're going to say as often as, oh my God, he got it absolutely right? How many times are we going to hear that? Not as much as we heard it when Harold Letterman was around. So some people are just hard to match. And to have had the experience of working for a while with Merchant, Leonard, and Harold, and then later Merchant, Foreman, and Harold, what a privilege. I mean, how could I have asked for anything better than that?
Yeah, I was just going to bring up.
And later to work with Emmanuel Stewart, who became the closest male friend I've ever had in my life. My absolute blood brother from the ground up.
Why was that?
And then Roy Jones, the same kind of thing. Why was Emmanuel my closest friend?
Why out of all the people you worked with, Emmanuel Stewart became the closest to you?
Johnny, you know how every once in a while you'll meet somebody who on the surface is from a completely different background and a different world. And from Jump Street, from the get-go, you realize that this person knows you, can feel you, can see everything about who you are. That's the way I was with Emmanuel. He just knew me. I had never really met him. I had heard about him. I heard people call him Manny. I became the one who learned over a period of time he didn't like to be called Manny. Cosell had invented Manny. His name was Emmanuel. And so I disciplined myself to make sure that I would never mess up on that. But the very first time I was ever assigned to a fight involving Emmanuel, I was still doing the fights at ABC. It was summer of '87. Thomas Hearns was fighting Dennis Andrews for the light heavyweight championship of the world in Detroit. And the fight is on Wide World of Sports on Saturday afternoon. So the normal routine is that I arrive in Detroit late afternoon or evening on Thursday, try to grab a dinner. Friday is fighter meetings and all the preparation that goes into getting ready for the fight. And Saturday is the telecast. I arrive at the Detroit airport for this fight very early in my arc and go to baggage claim and start looking around for the driver who's going to have a little sign that says Jim Lampley. And I don't see a driver with Jim Lampley. And eventually, a couple of minutes into this, Emmanuel walks over and pats me on the back and says, "Hey, Jimbo, welcome to Detroit." Well, just the simple fact that he had never met me and he starts off calling me by my childhood nickname, Jimbo, what my grandmother and my mother had called me when I was a child. He says, "Hey, Jimbo." And I looked at him and said, "Emmanuel, it's great to meet you. I'm so thrilled." I said, "Funny running into you here. I was just looking for my driver." He said, "Oh, I sent your driver away. Your driver is not here anymore. I'm taking you to your hotel. And by the way, we're going to go to dinner first together. And we're going to listen to some rhythm and blues on the car radio while we're driving to the hotel. And we're going to go in and have a drink and talk fights. We're going to get to know each other a little bit." Well, that was my first exposure ever, my first night with Emmanuel Stewart. And from that moment forward, I've never had a closer male friend. He knew me. That's all I can say about it. And I miss him intensely, desperately every day. The fact that I didn't break out in tears about Foreman earlier, that's good for me. The fact that I'm not breaking out in tears about Emmanuel right now, that's good for me. I'm maybe learning self-control finally, but at the end of the day, it's very intense for me to talk about both of those guys because they meant so much to me.
We are here with the legend, Hall of Famer, voice of boxing, Jim Lampley, man. Make sure you guys smash that like button. More importantly, subscribe to the channel. This is how we do it up here at the Hangout spot. If you could describe all of your former broadcasting partners with one word, how would you describe number one, Harold Letterman?
Integrity.
Roy Jones.
Brilliance.
George Foreman.
Common sense.
Larry Merchant.
Elevated thought.
Max Kellerman.
Similarly elevated thought, but generationally forward from Larry.
Sugar Ray Leonard.
Honest.
And last
Really
but not
honest.
least, and last but not least, Jim Lampley.
Jim Lampley. What would I say about Jim Lampley? I would love it. I'd absolutely love it if I could say real. And the reason I say that is because long time ago, I asked Roy Jones why he thought it was that somebody like me with a different background and a different kind of upbringing, a kid who'd played golf growing up, how was it that I was able to get along with fighters so well? And Roy said to me, "Lamps, real knows real." And that was it. Real knows real. And I want to think he was right. I hope he was right. It was certainly a fantastic compliment to me, and I'll never forget it. And I love Roy Jones with passion. for all the things we did together.
Do you still stay in contact with him?
Stay in touch with him?
Yeah.
I do try to stay in touch with him. We almost went to Savannah together after HBO gave up had to give up the boxing franchise after HBO's new owners got rid of boxing. Roy and I planned a trip to Savannah where we could go and eat some great food and commiserate. And he wound up with other obligations and things he had to do in Pensacola. And one thing I've always said to fighters in particular is, I do understand that any friendship or any family issue comes above me. I mean, this goes all the way back to I met and befriended O.J. Simpson in the 70s, long before Los Angeles and all that. But I was friendly with O.J. and at the Olympics in 76 in Montreal, we hung out with each other every night and we dined together and we spent all sorts of time sharing music, talking with each other, talking about the sports events and stuff like that. And at the end of the Montreal Olympics, I remember I said to OJ one night, I have so much fun with you and we have great conversations. I really would love for you to come visit me in Chapel Hill. Because then, as now, I was living in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And OJ looked at me and he said, Lamp, I would really love that. I would love to come see you in Chapel Hill. But if I made that trip to come see you, I would then have to go see Reggie McKenzie and Jim Seymour. He listed all of his offensive linemen. He said, those are the guys who got me 2,000 yards. So if I'm going to show you that kind of love and respect, I would have to do it for every one of them first. And I hope you understand that. And I totally understood, always have. And I appreciated that OJ was so straight with me in making that kind of thing clear. Roy Jones and I, at the end of the day, were not able to make the trip to Pensacola. Whatever went on in his life that prompted him to have to miss the trip to Pensacola, I'm on board. He has all my love and all my support and always will.
Awesome. Awesome. Pink Carl 6 with the $5 said, what are some of your memorable calls or moments?
Well, the two most memorable calls are Mike Tyson has been knocked out, and it happened. The end of the two very dramatic and meaningful heavyweight championship fights that I called on HBO. But while you don't want to get into the business of idolizing your own work, that's not an intelligent, analytical way to look at it. There are some things I've done that I liked, and mostly I liked exciting moments involving friends on the air. I mean, I saw the greatest downhill ski race in history in 1976. Anybody wants to know what I'm talking about, you should go look at Franz Klammer's downhill from Innsbruck, Austria in 1976. Klammer, Klammer. I was at the Miracle on Ice in 1980. I wasn't supposed to be there. I was sent at the last minute for a kind of ancillary of the moment assignment, get an interview at the end of the game in case something interesting happens. Well, yeah, something interesting happened. The biggest upset in the history of American sports. And I wound up taking Mike Ruzioni and Jim Craig to a restaurant for dinner and interviewing them on the street of Lake Placid after their dinner was over that night. And millions of Americans think they watched the Miracle on Ice live on television. They didn't. They saw it on tape because it was played at 5 o'clock when people from, were going home from work. I got sent there on a last minute assignment right out of the Cracker Jack box. So I'm one of the few who saw it live, along with Al Michaels and Ken Dryden and, the people who did the broadcast. But at the end of the day, there are many, many memorable calls or moments, but we can start with boxing. It happened at the end of Foreman Moore, and Mike Tyson has been knocked out at the end of Tyson Douglas.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's just I actually when I saw this question, and that was one of the questions but I was like, that's just like what would I say? But there's just so many, throughout the years. We're talking about decades of just calling not just big fights, all fights,
You know what
on
really flatters me? What really makes me feel special and privileged and happy? That now I'm beginning dialogue with young fighters, um, like Shakur Stevenson in particular. I'm texting back and forth with Shakur. He knows my calls. He's looked back at some of my fights. So that's so flattering and so exciting to me that a young man his age with big prospects in front of him knows enough to know who I am. It's great.
Come on, Jim. Who doesn't know you, man? You're the voice of boxing, man. You are so humble,
I want
but
to stay surprised by that, Johnny.
you got to keep it
I don't
real.
want to take that for granted. I still want to see that as a big surprise.
Real, real recognizes real. That's how we used to say it. Roy Jones said real knows real.
Real knows
We
real.
recognize real.
Real knows real. Roy,
Yeah.
another guy at ABC named Artie Curry, who was off the air and nobody ever saw him, but one of the most soulful men of all time.
For sure. But as a fan, because I know you're a fan of boxing, take away the blow by blow and some of the bigger fights, but what were your favorite fights to watch while you were calling them? Because I know that's hard. You're calling the fights,
okay.
but you're also a fan of
Let's
boxing.
go to the two trilogies. Okay. And if I say the two trilogies, you probably know what the two trilogies are, but they're actually, excuse me, let's go to all three trilogies. Okay. So we're talking about Gaddy Ward, we're talking about Barrera Morales, and we're talking about Bo Holyfield. Those to me are the three great trilogies in my career. And I will never forget the excitement of all three of them. And yeah, so those 9 fights, every one of them extraordinary. They are locked into the memory back. I was with Manny Pacquiao last week. I was physically with Manny Pacquiao at the International Boxing Hall of Fame induction last week. And it was so thrilling and exciting to be there with him. And I've got to tell you, the Manny Pacquiao I met the first time in 2001, 24 years ago, came into a fighter meeting room at the, I think it was the Hilton in Las Vegas. Might have been the MGM Grand. I'm not sure.
Jim, before you say that,
he struggled to put 3 words of English together. He was going to appear on a top-ranked undercard the following day, fighting against a brilliant South African champion named Leshnola Ledwaba. They had reached out to Samson Lukowicz, a talent hunter all around the world. He had found this kid named Manny Pacquiao, and they brought Pacquiao in. And I sat in the meeting room and thought, wow, what a misfit. A kid who stole stolen cigarettes on the streets of General Santos City, and now he's going to fight against the best 122-pound fighter in the world. So, of course, Manny went into the ring the next day and annihilated Ledwaba, ruined his career, cleaned him up, and now we had been introduced to the phenomenon that's Manny Pacquiao. Fast forward 24 years. Last 2 Saturday nights ago, he stood at the dais in a giant ballroom in upstate New York with hundreds of people to accept his induction into the International Boxing Hall of Fame. He made a 12 or 13-minute speech. I timed it on my watch. All in English, no script, all of it done off the top of his head, coherent, ordered, brilliant. And I said to him afterward, I went with him to the restroom so I could talk to him in private. I said, Manny, I can't believe what I just saw. And I know that politics has something to do with this kind of development. Certainly politics help to influence your speaking potential and possibility. But for you to have come to where you are now, from what I saw 24 years ago, there's only one sport in the world. There's only one sport in the world that can produce that kind of platform for personal development, and that is boxing. The other great example, besides Manny, Muhammad Ali. Do you think any other sport produces a Muhammad Ali? No, not in 1,000 years. It has to be this kind of cultural interface, this kind of platform for presenting yourself, this kind of self-examination that goes into time after time going in to the ring with another trained athlete and trying to prove you're the better man. Unique challenge, unbelievable, great sport, great personal development stories over and over and over. I'm the luckiest man alive to have lived the life that I lived.
I remember that fight clearly, and nobody knew him. In fact, I believe it was even a little bit of a challenge to pronounce his last name.
Yes,
I think
Pacquiao
it's
was a
Pacquiao.
challenge.
I
Yeah.
think it's
We
Pacquiao.
were we were
Pacquiao. I
all over
remember
the
your
ballpark.
voice.
Pacquiao? Is it Pacquiao? Is it, we were all over the ballpark. Larry, Harold, me. But at the end of the day, he taught us. He found a way to teach us who he was. Pacquiao, Pockyow.
He sure
What a
did.
guy. What an absolutely amazing human being. I mean, again, you can't say it enough. Sold stolen cigarettes on the streets as an adolescent to survive his childhood in General Santos City in the Philippines.
Amazing. Amazing. Out of those 9 fights, obviously the round that you love the most, and you talk about that all the time, is Gotti Ward. I
Nine,
believe I
round
believe
nine, round
round
nine of
9.
the first fight. Now,
Yeah.
round 9 of the first fight, that's the apotheosis of combative, face-to-face, blood-curdlingly violent boxing. That's as high as it gets. And of course, it went a long way, along with everything else that happened in those fights, toward underlining the lesson that I learned about that kind of scary, blood-curdling violence, is that we think they're trying to kill each other, but what they're really doing is falling in love. Because when the bell sounds at the end of the 12th round, invariably they fall into each other's arms and they embrace and they whisper into each other's ears and they begin to share what is now going to become, going forward, a love affair. You cannot, I mean, before Arturo died, you couldn't separate Arturo and Mickey. They had to be with each other. I was at the Boxing Hall of Fame last year with Barrera and Morales. They had no great love for each other during the rivalry, but in Canastota, arm in arm, ate every meal together, went to every event together, could not be with anybody else. Because once you've had that experience, there's nobody else in the world, not even your wife, who knows you as well as that guy does. He's tasted your blood. He's tasted your sweat. He knows the absolute limits of your ability to take something. He knows what you can dish out, and he knows it better than anybody else. Even their mothers don't know them as well as they know each other after a 3-fight series like Gatti Ward or Barrera Morales or Riddick Bowe Evander Holyfield.
Great trilogies, great trilogies. Other than that round, was there one more that stands out to you as one of your
10th
favorite?
round of Bowe Holyfield. And the 10th round of Bowe Holyfield, go watch it again. It is all out nuclear combat. It's as great as any heavyweight round has ever been. And I'll never forget it because I was seated directly across the ring from a dear friend of mine, Magic Johnson. We knew each other from LA. We knew each other from the Lakers, et cetera, et cetera. We'd spent time together. Magic was sitting with his wife, Cookie, directly opposite me across the ring at Bowe Holyfield 1. And if you've never seen the 10th round of Bowe Holyfield 1, go watch it. It's heavyweight boxing at its most extreme, both artistically and violently. And at the end of the round, when the bell sang, I happened to catch Magic's eye directly across the ring. And he looked at me, fixed his gaze on me, and then he tilted his head up and let his head go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, 3 or 4 times, like what we used to call blindisms. And it was his way of portraying the ecstasy of us having shared seeing something that we knew we might not ever again see duplicated in our lives. That was an astonishing and unforgettable moment for me.
Do we ever see a trilogy like that again today? And with
I never say never. I mean, there are great fighters out there.
what 2 fighters do you think, having fought, that you'd like to see fight, that might be able to deliver a
Produce
trilogy
that
like
kind of
that?
violence. Okay, well, here, I'll give you one. I'll phrase it this way. I asked the great Larry Merchant very recently. I said, is there any way in your mind that Terrence Crawford can beat Canelo Alvarez? And Larry said to me, Jim, did Ray Leonard get a decision win over Marvin Hagler? I said, yes, he did. He said, well, if Ray Leonard could have gotten a decision win over Marvelous Marvin Hagler, then yes, absolutely, Terrence Crawford has a chance to beat Canelo Alvarez because it's the same thing. It's the same size difference to a certain degree.
Wow.
It's a very similar style difference. And there's a blueprint there. If Crawford looks at what Leonard did, get in, get out, get in, get out, get in, land to the body, get out, get in, land upstairs, get out, mix it up, mix it up, mix it up, and always the footwork, never standing in the same place. If Crawford has the energy to do that, there's a chance. There's absolutely a chance. Even though Canelo has the best punch resistance in the sport, I don't think Terrence can knock him out. I'm not sure anybody can knock him out. But you know, there is a way that Crawford can win the fight if he can duplicate a lot of what Leonard did against Hagler in a very disputed and in some quarters unpopular decision.
Yes, because I had Hagler winning that fight.
Almost everybody says that. I call it the #1 elevator fight in history. What's an elevator fight? That's where Jim Lampley or Max Kellerman gets on an elevator and there are 7 other people there. And eventually somebody turns around and says, who was the real winner of Leonard Hagler? You know, that's what they want to know.
That's dope. I never heard
More
that
than
before.
any other fight, that's an elevator fight.
I never heard that before. So you think that fight can be that fight? Because again, you know, a lot of people are
I
questioning.
don't see another way for Crawford to beat him. You know, I mean, and that's because we're talking about fundamentally a 21-pound weight differential. Terrence is, yeah, okay, he moved up. He fought one fight at 154. So yeah, he's a little bigger now in training and stuff like that, 7 pounds. But is he gonna pack on weight all the way up to 168 and be effective? I don't see that. And I think you've got to weigh 168 to even begin to make a dent on Canelo. So again, I don't think it's possible. I love you, Terrence. Please forgive me. I don't think it's possible for Terrence to knock Canelo out. But can he win the fight? Oh, hell yes. With his footwork, his instincts, his speed, his boxing knowledge, his multiple crafts. Oh, yeah. Crawford can conceivably win that fight. He has to be able to take Canelo's punch, particularly the body, when Canelo lands, and he has to be able to continuously get in, get out, get in, get out, and test Canelo's energy for that kind of fight.
Gut feeling. Are you calling that fight?
What?
Gut feeling. Are you calling that fight? Because I'd say yes.
Blank. Blank. I don't know. I don't want to allow myself an expectation. I like Turkey. I like the organization. I hope I'm calling the fight. I mean, that's obvious, but I don't know. There are other people who can call fights. I'll be the first to say that.
Yeah, but there aren't any better than you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm here with the great Jim Lampley. You guys got to get them likes up, man. Get them likes up. And make sure you subscribe. Do we ever see the fight game again? What happened? Why did that go away?
HBO went away? I mean, a bunch of cell phone salesmen from Dallas bought HBO and decided it was a good idea to get rid of the boxing franchise. And once the boxing franchise was gone from HBO, there was no more need for the fight game. Now, am I going to regenerate the fight game in some other iteration? Well, now I have this book. And to promote the book, I've got a website, and I wish my wife was here and could tell you the website, but I think it's the Jim Lampley or the real Jim Lampley on Instagram.
Yep.
And what we've done on Instagram to bring back just a tiny bit of the fight game is we're reinstituting the Gaddy list, and we revise the Gaddy list every week according to who has performed how.
That's
And,
what I was going to
for
ask
anybody
you.
who doesn't understand what the Gaddy list is, that's a list of fighters who are meaningful and important, not necessarily because they win or because they lose, but because of how fans feel when they watch them. How much fun are they to watch for the fans? That's what the Gaddy list is all about. Because when you watched Arturo, if you're not old enough to remember, when you watched Arturo, you didn't care whether he won or lost. You just wanted to see the glory of watching somebody who was so blood and guts, so all out, so uniquely exposed in there the way Arturo Gatti was. You couldn't help but fall in love with that. And
Absolutely.
after all, we call them boxing matches, but in the best of all possible worlds, they're fights, real fights.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up. That was going to be one of my questions. That you're now active on IG and you're putting that list together. It's great. It's phenomenal. It's sensational. I look forward
Yeah,
to all of it.
we're doing the Gaddy list, and William Zepeda, who is fighting Shakur Stevenson coming up, he's on the Gaddy list, and a couple of others. We're only doing 3 at a time.
Okay, great, great. And you're doing those weekly.
Yeah, updated
Awesome.
every week.
Awesome, awesome. That is great, great news. One of the questions that a couple other questions that I did have.
Bam Rodriguez, by the way, putting Bam Rodriguez on the Gaddy list. Artur Beterbiev on the Gaddy list. Go forward, give no quarter, etc. These are the other 2 that I have there for the moment. We're looking at Christian Mbili. Christian Mbili is very interesting to me, and I think he's going to become a fan favorite too.
Oh yeah, he has a very, very exciting fight style. Attorney Bailey is back with $20. He said, Jim, your thoughts on Ray Robinson, Ray Leonard, James Toney, Pernell Whitaker, Tyson, best fight you called?
Okay, so Larry Merchant's background in the sport was deeper than mine. And I once asked him, I know that you think that Sugar Ray Robinson was the greatest fighter of all time. What's the critical criterion for you in saying that you think Robinson was the greatest fighter of all time? And Larry looked at me and said, Jim, he was a natural welterweight who knocked out middleweights with one punch. Nobody else ever duplicated that. Now, remember, you're talking about a 13-pound weight gap from 147 to 160. And Larry's point was that this guy could go up from 147 to 160 and knock the opponent out with one punch. He did it several times. So on that basis, yeah, it's pretty hard not to rate him number 1 all time. Ray Leonard, great fighter, great human being, great friend. He had fabulous fights against Duran and Thomas Hearns. Those fights were every bit as good as Gatti Ward and Barrera Morales. And I just feel lucky that I knew him, that I went to his wedding in the backyard in Pacific Palisades when he married beautiful girl, Bernadette Roby, the daughter of the lead singer in the Platters. And had years of wonderful friendship with Ray Leonard. Can't forget him. James Toney, what a character. Probably knows as much about boxing craft and technique as anyone who boxed in his generation. He's a real student of the sport, and in some very endearing and fun ways, kind of a crazy person. Love James Toney, great friend, love to be around him. Sweet Pea, well, I knew him when he was coming out of the Olympics, and I knew him when he was in his developmental stage. Sweet Pea, I probably proved to some people either my parochial quality or my absence of real judgment and knowledge when I thought that De La Hoya beat Pernell in their fight against each other. Larry very strongly felt that Pernell had won the fight. And I think most real serious ringside types at that time were on Larry's side, thinking that Pernell deserved the decision. But I had a little bit of a bent toward De La Hoya, and I was on that side at that time. But Pernell's one of the greatest defenders and greatest lightweights of all time. Tyson, wonderful friend, great person. I watched him grow up in a lot of ways, and and he probably would have grown up faster if he'd been in any other role he was in. The amount of pressure that was on Mike Tyson early in his career, I don't know that any American athlete has ever been placed in the kind of spotlight that he had to endure in his early development career. And it's a mark of what a wonderful, smart human being he is, that he came out of all that sane, in charge of his affairs, capable of going and doing that one-man show, which was an astonishing display of intelligence and self-awareness and maturity. Again, I'm just happy that I knew Mike Tyson, and I hope someday we get to be together and hang out again. Best fight that I called, impossible, too many. I've mentioned probably 10, 15 fights since we've been sitting here. Just pick one out, go to Gatti Ward 1, go to Barrera Morales 1 or Barrera Morales 3, go to Bo Holyfield 1. You only have to look at the 10th round. It's one of the greatest rounds ever fought by anybody, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I could probably list 20 or 30 other fights here, but it's pointless to try to do so because there is no one best fight I ever called.
Yeah, man, that's it's phenomenal. It doesn't get any better than this. Chad from Canada is back with 5. Any opinions or anecdotes about the lineal title? Boxing fans don't give the lineal champ the respect that is deserved. Is it important to you, Jim?
I always tried to distinguish between who was the lineal champion and who was the owner of a less important belt. I always did the best I could when I was calling the fights to make that distinction clear. It only stands to reason that in the world in which we live, with multiple governing bodies and sanctioning organizations and television networks all clamoring to have a piece of the action and fighting for a slice of the pie, that you're going to wind up with titles being carved up into this identity, this jurisdiction. And it's not good for the sport, but it's been going on for a long, long time. And it's abundantly clear now that's not going to kill boxing. So we have ultimately, over the years, come up with the concept of the people's champion. Who's the people's champion? Who is the person who fans believe is the actual best fighter in the division and the one at whom the other guys should be pointing all of the time? And no, not all fans are going to agree, but that's a safer and smarter way of going about it than to say, oh, okay, because he's got the lineal title, he's the best. That doesn't necessarily mean anything depending on the circumstances.
I got you. Lou Rock.
I do think the lineal champ deserves respect. Okay, yep. So keep going.
No, absolutely. Lou Rock 33 just wants to show some love. Chad is back. Said Jim Lampley equals accessible. No, man, listen, it's an honor, man. We're not even there. It's an honor to have you here at the Hangout spot. Fight Hook News is showing some love. Said Jim, I love your true passion and emotion of the sport of boxing. When you talk about fighters like Miguel Cotto and Arturo Gatti, watching you tear up and cry on national TV show the true love.
Listen, I wish I didn't tear up and cry. Okay, let's be clear about this. I have never ever wanted to cry on television, and I've never thought that it was a good look for me. But I am who I am. And I was raised by my mother to be a particular way. And by the way, it was my mother who gave me my perspective on boxing. My father died when I was 5 years old, and my mother taught me boxing. So I can't punch out or get rid of the part of my personality that's most central to who I am. And on those occasions when you see tears creep out of my eyes, or you can tell that I'm choking up on television, that's because that's the real me. That's the person I was taught by my mother to be. That's how I feel about people. I mean, if somebody had come in and tried to do an interview with me the day after Foreman died, no, I can't do that. I can't sit in front of a camera and bawl like a baby because I miss this man so much. So I do try to be as dignified and as serious as I can be, and I don't do things for theatrical effect, but I am more emotional about boxing than almost anything else. And Miguel Cotto, what happened to Miguel Cotto was a violent crime that should have produced a lengthy prison sentence. That was public assault and battery with a deadly weapon, and it should never, ever have happened. And for it to happen to one of the sweetest people in the sport was just heartbreaking. But I'm happy to say he's okay now. And I talked to his family in Puerto Rico, and Miguel is doing fine.
And he ended up getting that get back, which was good.
Oh, yeah.
In the
he
rematch.
got Margarita in New York. And, but I don't think anything could ever give back what was lost from having been hit with bricks for 12 rounds in Las Vegas.
That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. And I agree. Lou Rock 33 said Canelo versus Butters an HBO fight. It would have been
HBO quality. It's the kind of fight we used to try to put on. Absolutely. It's two spectacular human beings who, either one of them is capable of producing a tremendous, brilliant, intelligent performance that night. I'm hoping they both do.
Does it surprise you that we live in a day and age where HBO is gone, Showtime is gone, and now we're doing fights on Amazon Prime, its own streaming platform, Netflix?
Getting to the right point. It's not because fans would have wanted it this way or business people would have wanted it this way. It's about electronics. All of these changes are electronically driven, and the finances of television organizations, the way that the money's gathered, et cetera, it's all different now. So in effect, everything can be pay-per-view. If the distributors wanted everything to be pay-per-view, they could do that, and they can certainly do it with boxing. They can make sure that you feed the meter every single time you watch a boxing match, and we might ultimately get to that point. And that started October of 1971 in Madison Square Garden, and Larry was there for Ali Frazier 1, and just to shine a light on how clearly Ali saw the future. All right, Larry swore to me that as the two fighters were in their corners, bouncing up and down on their toes, getting ready for the bell to ring to start round one, Ali was saying out loud over and over, $2.5 million, $2.5 million, $2.5 million. That's how stunned he was at the amount of money he was going to make that night.
Wow.
If Merchant says it, I believe it. I don't think he would make it up.
Yeah, no doubt. So without a doubt, he is the greatest of all time. Muhammad Ali.
Well, Tom Hauser, who's the most astute and historically based and literate of boxing writers, recently did a survey of 30 other big name, huge background boxing writers to ask them to list the top 20 or 25 heavyweights of all time. And Ali was the runaway number one, far and away number one. Number two, Joe Louis. And then you go on further down the list from there. My first live prize fight, as you probably know, was Cassius Clay versus Sonny Liston, February 25, 1964, at the Miami Beach Convention Center. And I'll tell you an amazing coincidence. Do you know who Bob Sheridan is?
Bob Sheridan, yes.
Bob Sheridan was a boxing blow-by-blow guy from Miami. And there's a moment in time in the United States culture when if you were looking for maybe the one person who had called as many fights on television as Jim Lampley, that was Bob Sheridan, because he called fights for Top Ranks television network and for a variety of others and things of that nature. So the first live prize fight I ever went to was Cassius Clay versus Sonny Liston, Miami Beach Convention Center, February 25, 1964. And that was also the first live prize fight that Bob Sheridan ever attended. And, years later, we're both at ringside for all these fights over and over and over. And I didn't realize until way later when he told me that we had both gone to our first live prize fight in the same building on the same night. That's bizarre. I mean, it's a pretty big country, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali, Never another talent like that. Never another mental, psychological, instinctive talent like that. Never another cosmically aware showman like that. That one Ali per lifetime. I'm pretty sure of that.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll ever see one again. That's for sure. True legend in his craft. Just like I don't think we'll ever see another Jim Lampley. That's just my opinion. One question that I was so looking forward to asking you, because you've forgotten more boxing than I know. I want you to build the perfect fighter by picking one. I want you to build the perfect fighter for me by picking one fighter, past or present, for each of the following attributes. But you can't pick the same fighter twice. Who would you pick for speed, past or present?
Speed, past or present. Speed. Ray Leonard.
Power.
George Foreman.
Defense.
There are several. Gene Fulmer was a great defender. There are a lot of them. There was a great defender way back in early clay heavyweight area named Eddie Machen. He avoided the knockout against Sonny Liston. Not easy to do. Pernell Whitaker. I think Pernell is probably the best defender I ever covered.
Footwork.
Well, I'm back to Ray Leonard. I did understand I did not cover Sugar Ray Robinson. So among the welterweight, middleweight types, I saw Sugar Ray Robinson, but I was not educated enough to understand exactly what I was watching at that time. But I was educated enough to know what I was watching when Ray Leonard was pursuing his career. So I would take his, were we talking footwork?
Footwork, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'll take Ray.
Ring IQ.
Ring IQ. A lot of good ones. Roy Jones. Brilliant in the ring. Yeah, I'll go with Roy Jones.
Heart and determination.
What?
Heart and determination.
Heart and determination. Arturo Gatti.
I knew you were going to pick that.
Arturo Gatti. There was just no way to put that back into the crackerjack box. I mean, he was just irrepressible. Yeah. So I'd have to go with Arturo Gatti for heart and determination. I think most fighters would say that too.
That would be my pick for heart and determination. And last but not least, especially today in a day and age where you need that to market your brand, star appeal.
Star appeal. Well, you know, all the people we've been talking about, Leonard, Hearns, Robinson, et cetera, they all had star appeal. Go to Europe, Vladimir Klitschko, huge star. Vasily Lomachenko in Ukraine, huge star, et cetera. Gennady Golovkin. Oh my gosh, what an amazing star Golovkin was. I mean, how could you not love that? But again, this answer is too easy. There's only one Muhammad Ali. There's nobody else on that level.
Ladies and gentlemen, the legend Jim Lampley just built the perfect fighter, and I need to shout that out. That was amazing. That was amazing, man. What is there one fighter that you never covered that you wish you would have had the opportunity to do so?
Sugar Ray Robinson. Yeah, I mean, Larry told me he was the greatest fighter of all time. I watched him. I saw him. But I never had the situation where I was sitting in front of a mic and talking about him because I was 12 years old, 13 years old, something like that. Him, Emil Griffith from my childhood, tremendous welterweight and middleweight fighter with real punch. And the Ruelas brothers, Gabe and Rafael Ruelas.
Rafael, wow.
Great friends and wonderful entertainers.
That's a great answer, man. I don't believe that you never called one of their fights.
called one of Gabe's fights, and it was a fight that he would probably wish had not taken place because the opponent died afterward, and that it, one of the truisms in the sport is if one fighter dies, two careers die. The fighter who is seen as the perpetrator, it's very difficult to go back into the ring and be the same way. Gabe Ruelas was never again capable. Jesus Chavez, same thing. You lose, both fighters lose their careers when one of them dies. So, I had a particular passion for the Ruelas brothers because it was a great story and they were both great people. And I really, really felt for Gabe. I tried to make a movie about him after the opponent died, but life goes on and that's the way it is.
Will we ever, now that you bring that up, will we ever see a Jim Lampley movie?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I'm pretty amazed that, people are as interested as they are in the book. For a few years, I sort of resisted writing the book, and a friend of mine who's an author here in Chapel Hill said, Jim, you're crazy. Your story is wild. Your story is highly unpredictable. Your story is like a dramatic movie. So yes, you absolutely need to write the book. Okay, so now I wrote the book. But my life is a real life. It took place in front of a camera. Most people who care enough about this stuff have already seen what I did and know what I did. And here we are talking about it on the radio. I'm not sure there's enough left for discovery, because in a movie story, you have to have something in terms of discovery, right? If everybody knows everything, then why would you go buy a ticket? So at the end of the day, I don't know if we'll ever see a Jim Lampley movie, and I would be crazy to put any importance on it or think of it that way. It's stunning enough to me that I have a book and people are buying it. So
excellent book. That was you took me to my next question. I was going to ask you, why was this a good time, to do this book? This is an excellent book. I hope everybody goes and picks this up. It Happened, a uniquely lucky life in sports television by the great Jim Lampley. It's a great read. I mean, it's phenomenal, but you answered that question. Obviously, it was the right time. I would love to see something along the lines of maybe a biopic. I know that Stitch Duran, I've had him on the channel. He's
I think look, if there were a boxing channel, or if somebody thought that there's a theatrical movie in my story, sure, I could see that. But I'm not going to waste any time wondering about when that's going to happen. I'm amazed enough at all the things that have happened so far and very happy with them.
Yeah, no, the reason why I brought that up, like I said, is I had Stitch Duran, legendary cut man. He's been on the channel here, and
I
they're
love
doing. Oh, yeah, he's great. He's absolutely phenomenal. We've had him here a couple of times actually, and they're doing a movie. I believe it releases at the end of the year. Christy Martin. I've had the great Christy Martin on here, and her biopic. You probably saw her at the Hall of Fame. She was at the Hall of Fame.
Martin was a fighter. It's a lot easier to do a movie about a fighter than a fight announcer. There's not as much drama in what the announcer does. I love Christy. She's a friend, and her career story, unbelievable.
Oh,
just amazing. And the beauty of it for the movie is that there are ups and downs. There are some very significant, painful negatives in Christy's story, and then there's her ability to endure all that and survive and continue as the cosmic person that she is.
Yeah, it was a great interview with her. Again, she's been through a lot in her life. She's
Coal miner's daughter.
Yeah, she survived a near-death experience. I mean, all she's overcome in the ring and outside the ring. It was great. It was great. But they're doing a biopic on her life. I believe that's being released at the end of the year as well. So when that happens, I'll get
her at Canastota last week too.
Yeah.
You was there.
She was there. Yeah, absolutely. She was there. I need you to make me a promise though, because I know that you're not gonna. We've asked you, will we see you again? And you're like, I don't know. We'll see. If I get the call. But if you get the call, will you say yes?
For what?
To call future fights.
Oh, almost certainly I'll say yes.
Yes. I mean, okay, that's all I wanted.
If it's at a high enough platform to match with my background, yeah, sure, absolutely. I'd love to call more fights. and look forward to it. And great relationship with Turkey, and hope that that leads to calling more fights. But whatever comes along, I'm certainly going to strongly consider it, because I'm a fight caller. That's what I do.
That's what we love to hear. That's all I wanted you to say. If they call, I will come back out and I will sit, in that broadcast table, and I will provide the best.
Thumbs up, baby. Thumbs up. We're together on that one.
I love it. I love it. Jim, I asked you so many questions, and a lot of them were pertaining to some of the best, fights you've called, the fighters that seen, been around. I got to tell you, from my perspective, if somebody would have asked me what was one of the best interviews you ever did, or best interviews that you spent time with, or conversations, this would be the one, man. This was phenomenal.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely phenomenal, man. This is one of those that I
really appreciate it. And and if that's the case and you feel that way, I owe that to one thing: boxing. BOXING. Everything good that's in my life now, even up to and including my familial relationships and how I get along with my sons and daughters, et cetera, et cetera. It's all built on what boxing gave to me. And I could not be more grateful to any large, all-encompassing institution than I am to the whole boxing world for the chance that boxing gave to me to make a meaningful mark in my life. I think I did, and the sport is who deserves credit, because it was a gift from boxing to me.
Well, this was a gift for me. Like I said, I'm 50. I'll be 52 years old in July, and just listening to you for decades is one thing, right? To admire you, to admire what you've done, for you to be an idol, then all of a sudden to have you here, having a conversation with you is extremely special to me. I'm going to tell you one thing: anybody that comes to the Hangout spot is family. You are officially family, and you are welcome back here anytime. And I hope that you would please find the time to come back one day. This was absolutely phenomenal.
I love it. A mí me gusta familia. Es bueno para mí entrar a su familia ahorita.
I love it. Shout out to Jim.
Espanol. You know what Espanol gave to me? I had a wonderful Spanish teacher in 8th grade in Miami whose name was Mrs. Summer, and she was a stickler for pronunciations. You had to pronounce everything correctly in Mrs. Summer's class. So when I first met Oscar de la Hoya in 1992 at the Olympics in Barcelona and was interviewing him, this teenage kid, he looked at me and said, "You say De La Hoya?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You don't say De La Hoya like all the others." And I said, "Yeah, that's because of Mrs. Summer, my 8th grade teacher." She said, "I finally met somebody who knows how to pronounce Spanish the right way." So I had a specific in all the way through Oscar's career because I said De La Hoya, not De La Hoya. You know what I'm saying, Johnny?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying. Another one of my favorites, Oscar, and yeah, he was one of the best that ever did it. Didn't duck any smoke. Great fights, gave us great memories throughout the years. I'm sure those were great fights for you to call as well. With Oscar, it doesn't get any better than this, man. It really doesn't. This is one of those that I wish would never end, but I know I had you on for an hour and a half already. But I appreciate the time, Jim. I'm telling you, you got to come back, man. You got to come back to the Hangout spot, man.
Oh, I got to come back. Yeah, absolutely. I got to come back to the Hangout spot because I like to hang out.
Well, you're welcome back anytime. You're family. So you're welcome back anytime. And I'm sure my viewers are going to say, when are you getting Jim back? When are you getting Jim back? So hopefully, I'm going to say this to the viewers because I'm going to try to speak this into existence. When Turkey calls, for him to cover the Bud Canelo fight, we might have Jim back on so that Jim can say, "Johnny, you spoke it into existence."
Go to information in Riyadh and say, "I need to reach Turkey." All right. And I'm sure they'll put you right through.
I know, right? I know, but we'll speak it into existence. We'll give it a shot. Again, great book. Where can my again, for those that are crazy enough not to be following you, where can they find you again on IG?
And if they Google Jim Lampley and look for whatever is my Instagram handle,
I'm gonna post that. Yeah, it's the real Jim Lampley.
You can buy the book right off of the Instagram site, or you can also go to the standard booksellers, Barnes and Noble or Amazon on the web, and get it for the same price. So go to Amazon, say it happened, and they should be able to cough up a copy for you.
Great book, man. Great book, and thank you for autographing.
Books.
And thank you for autographing my copy. This will be cherished forever.
My handwriting is a mess, but I do know how to spell Jim Lampley. And one of the great benefits of the book is that I've gotten even better in the past 3 months at writing Jim Lampley. So that's something I do pretty well right now.
You are the absolute best. Hopefully you enjoyed this as much as I did, man. This was phenomenal, man. And I know my viewers loved it as well.
All right. Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you. And we'll see you soon. We'll bring you back soon.
I hope so. This was a privilege.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate your time, man. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the great and legendary voice of boxing, Hall of Famer, Jim Lampley was in the building. It doesn't get any better than this, man. It don't get any better than this. And I just want to thank you guys for cooking, man. We were cooking tonight, man. Me and Jim had our aprons on, man, and we were in the kitchen, man. We were in the kitchen. I just want to give a shout out to my man, Anthony Arvello Jr., the man behind Undisputed Promotions with the $10 super chat. Appreciate you, my brother. Appreciate the support and for you jumping on, man, to show support. My apologies, AB, with the $2, man. You wanted thoughts on Anyway. My bad. I didn't see that one. But I did read out all the rest of the other questions. I just want to thank everybody for rocking out. More importantly, man, for your donations, man. This was, listen, I don't even know what to say, man. I don't even know what to say because you guys know that that I love doing these interviews. I mean, these interviews are my bread and butter. I love spending time with fighters, trainers, all boxing figures. But when it comes to Jim Lampley, and again, maybe I'm biased, but it doesn't get any bigger than him, man. The legendary Hall of Famer, the voice of boxing. I grew up watching HBO boxing, hearing Jim Lampley with all these other legendary broadcasters that we talked about, Emmanuel Lewis, Roy Jones, Harold Letterman with his official scorecards, bro. The Letterman scorecard. I mean, Larry Merchant. And we spoke about all of that and then some. I love all of Jim's stories, man. And, what I love about Jim is he has a wealth, a career, all that he's been through. And the fact that he remembers dates, times, events, names. I mean, he was gracious. He was honest. He's passionate. I mean, when he came on and he agreed to do this interview and we were talking before we actually went live, I mean, I was like, I just want to thank you. This is an honor for me. He just like, no, it's, I just love to talk boxing, and man, it was just an absolute honor. So again, I just hope you guys love that as much as I did. I really did. I enjoyed that one. It's not every day that you get a chance to spend time with a true legend, of his craft. And we've had legends on the channel before, man. Stitch Duran, I mean, legendary cut man, Christy Martin, Hall of Famer, one of the best women fighters to ever do it. We've had her on. They got movies on their life. And now we had Jim Lampley on. That's crazy, bro. That's crazy, man. I gotta give myself a shout out. Woo! That was a natural high I was on, man. And not for nothing, man. He spent a good hour and a half with us, man. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the questions. You guys brought some good questions to the table as well. Again, man, I appreciate all the super chats, man. You guys were super, super duper generous. We actually nailed our 10 super chat goal. So, of course, this goes out to you guys. The champ is here. The champ is here. The champ is here. Let's go, champ. My man. Wow. awesome interview. I appreciate you guys in the comments who we got up in here, man. Eddie Alvarez, appreciate you, my brother, for rocking out. Attorney Bailey, man, I appreciate the donations. More importantly, being active, in the chat as well. Yeah, man, he spoke about Ray Robinson. He answered your question. We went fighter to fighter, man. Jim he was here, man. He hung out with us, man. And again, I hope he enjoyed that as much as I did. Yeah, he knows my name. Well, we've been going back and forth before this interview, man. Tons 1521 1521. Tons was good. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, Johnny. Thank you. Tons, that's a compliment to more of a compliment than you think, because I don't like to consider my interviews. I don't like to consider them interviews. I want to consider them conversations. So that, my man, is a true compliment. Appreciate you. Appreciate that compliment from the bottom of my heart. In fact, when we were setting this up, I told Jim, I said, I think you'll be okay, because my interviews, I like to have it, laid back, conversation. We're going to talk boxing. Yeah, I'm going to have questions, but we're going to go back and forth like you hanging out with me here. And he loved it. He loved the concept. He had seen some of my stuff before as well. But man, this was phenomenal. Dedrick, what's good, bro? What is good?
Let's go, champ.
Appreciate you supporting and rocking out. Tuesday night. This wasn't just any Tuesday night, y'all. We fucking cooked, bro. We cooked.
Let's go, champ.
Yeah, man, we cooked. Chad was good. Thank you, Chad, for the questions and the donations, and more importantly, the support, man, in the back end. Chad, my guy, bro. We've had Chad on the panel, and I run a lot of stuff by Chad. He just knows his stuff, man. Super intelligent, always shows the channel love, and I run a lot of stuff by Chad, so appreciate that. Yeah, Mo, that's right. Your question almost made Jim cry, fam. Word, but Jim get deep, man. He loves the fight game, and he loves these fighters and the relationships that he's had and he's developed and cultivated throughout the years, bro. Jim Lampley is a special dude. My man Heck is in the building.
Let's go, champ.
What up? We all grew up with that crew. Yeah, man. When we old, if we all old, the old crew, yeah, we can always say when we grew up with the crew. Fight Hook News, Jay Calderon is in the building. Appreciate you, my brother. Thank you for the super chat and the question. Much appreciated. Awesome interview. Great work, my brother. I appreciate you, man, for rocking out. You can't have a great interview unless you have a great person to interview. And in my opinion, it doesn't get any better than this. But this is what we like to do, man. This is how we like to do. So make sure you spread the word. You spread the word. We are so close to our next goal of 2,000 subscribers. We've done that, or we're probably almost going to do it in probably about 15, 16 months of us just putting out boxing content. But again, we grow, and this is where there's power in numbers. We want to get the bigger and better interviews for you guys. So definitely share the channel. Tell your people. Call them up. Say, yo, subscribe to my man Johnny at the Hangout spot, bro, because he's doing big things. Tonight he had Jim Lampley, and tomorrow we're going to have featherweight prospect, undefeated Keith Tusami Cologne. He's going to be in the building from New Jersey, Puerto Rico, New Jersey. He will be in the building tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That was better than expected, man. Chad, I appreciate that. I thought it was dope. And let me tell you something. I'm going to keep it real with you guys, man. I usually don't get worked up or nervous anymore when I bring somebody on. I was actually nervous before this interview because this is not just any interview. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is, a lot of people hopefully are going to watch this and share it. And again, when you're talking to somebody that is as legendary of a figure as Jim Lampley is in the sports broadcasting, excellence, it doesn't get any better. So I didn't want to fumble here, I didn't want to fumble the football here. So I was a little nervous. I ain't gonna lie. But once the conversation started getting popping, man, this is what we do. This is what we do, man. Dope interview. B. Brown, appreciate you, my brother.
My man.
Macau B, what's good? Good to have you back, my brother. I know you are a little bit of a PTO leave, but good to have you back, my brother. You family. Alberto said you can retire now. Nah, we ain't going nowhere. We ain't going nowhere because it gets even bigger and better from here. Bro, we ain't playing here at the Hangout spot, but we here to stay. We here to take over boxing podcasting, bro. Can I get an amen?
Amen, brother.
Absolutely, bro. We growing. Day by day, we growing. Look at what we've accomplished in just a little bit of a time. And when I say we, I'm talking about all of us. Because without y'all, there ain't no me. You know what I'm saying? So we here to stay, and we here to get bigger and better interviews. But I got to be honest, I don't think it gets better than this. There'll be some that might be as big, hopefully, but man, this is gonna be, for me, you know, especially from me, from an enjoyment standpoint, probably one of the top on the list. Clarissa was in the building as well. Cried hearing Jim speak Spanish. Yeah, definitely go buy the book. It's an excellent book. It is an excellent book. Guess who's in the building? For those of you guys in the chat, that's my mom, man. Shout out to Mrs. The Miss Hangout Spot mom. My mom, Elizabeth, is in the building checking her son out. Ma, appreciate you. Love you. Love you from the bottom of my heart. You know how we do it up here, you know. Anthony Arvelo, appreciate the support, my brother. Undisputed Promotions in the building. My most exciting Puerto Rican fighter to call. Damn, my bad. I didn't see this, bro. You should have threw it on that super chat, though. I would have saw that. I was taking questions through super chat. It's very, very hard when there's this much chat activity for me to, you know, sift through to kind of separate questions from comments. People are going back and forth with each other. So I apologize for that, my brother. You can talk boxing with Jim for 2 straight years every day and not run out of anything and stories to tell. Absolutely. David Garcia, appreciate you. Man, we could have stood here for hours and hours, but again, you know, I had to be, I had him on for an hour and a half, and he was gracious, man. He never ever told me, you know, I'm on a time limit. Never ever told me there's certain things I don't want to talk about. He was like, I'm an open book. I just love to talk boxing about people that is just as passionate about the sport as I am. And I said, you got your guy. Because I love this sport and I love to talk about it. I keep it real. You heard what he said. The whole real recognizes real. You know, that's what I'm all about. If you're watching this live on YouTube, again, it ain't too late to smash that like button. I don't think we're going anywhere anytime soon because I'm worked up now. So now y'all stuck with me. Now y'all stuck with me for a little while. Clarence McLean from No Duck Zone Podcast is in the building. Appreciate you, champ. Thanks for rocking out Tuesday night. This is what we do, man. Jim Lampley, the legend, he was in the building. It's a great interview. He family now, so we'll definitely try to get him back. Hopefully, again, Turkey will give him the call so that he can do play-by-play or blow by blow is what they call it in the boxing world for that Canelo and Bud fight. Because I told him, I said, if they call, you promise to say yes, and he said he'll say yes. My man Vince Colbert, what's going on, my brother, with the $5? Shout out to Vince Colbert, TBV's very own. We'll be fighting in Border Wars, the next Border Wars 16, going down August 2nd in Wisconsin. He gonna be fighting against Wizzy. And before that happens, we're gonna get Vince Colbert and Wizzy on a show Sunday night so that they could promote their much anticipated fight on Border Wars. Vince, appreciate you, my brother, with the donation. We rocking out. Speaking of making sure y'all smash that like button on YouTube. If you're watching this live, we got to get this channel out. Boxing fans need to know that we rock out weeknights, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're also doing weekend shows, and we're also doing the biggest and best interviews out here in boxing podcasting. Laid back, chill interviews. People got to know. So smash that like button. More importantly, share, subscribe. If you're watching this live on Facebook, make sure you throw a like. More importantly, come on over to YouTube and subscribe if you haven't done that. And last but not least, we are now streaming live on millions.co. That's right. The Hangout spot is now on another platform, millions.co. That's right, bro. This is how we do it up. We're streaming live on there as well. So if you guys are watching on millions.co, make sure you smash that like button and come on over to YouTube and subscribe to the channel because this is only the beginning. This is the first stream I did on millions.co, and it's going to be many, many more. Every live stream, every show we do, every live interview, boots to ground that we put out, you know, on the channel is going to be streamed on millions.co. Yes, I got to shout it out. Not to mention, but we also got merchandise. Remember, people were asking about Hangout Spot t-shirts. We got Hangout Spot t-shirts. We got Hangout Spot hoodies. And we're going to put that out right now because we also got on millions.co. We got the Hangout Spot merchandise. So I need you guys to go on the website. I'm going to put the link right here. We're going to put the link right here. And if you want a hangout spot, I know you guys have been asking me about it. We have raffled off a few. But now if you want to place an order for a t-shirt or a hoodie, different colors, different sizes, both men and women, check out my page on millions.co/the hangout spot /merchandise. In fact, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to give y'all a peep of what to expect when you guys go on the on millions.com. So yeah, this is my page on millions.com, the hangout spot, the home channel. Obviously, this is the live stream we're doing there. We got merchandise up in here. We got Hangout Spot hoodies and we got Hangout Spot t-shirts. All you need to do is click on the link that I just put in the chat. I actually pinned that link to the top of the chat. So if you want to check out the Hangout Spot merchandise, please go and hit that link. millions.co/the_hangout_spot. And that is the page. You go to shop, but the link that I put in the chat will take you right to the merchandise. And this is where we got hoodies. As you can see, male and female with the dope ass, the Hangout Spot logo on the left sleeve. We got medium sizes. We got large sizes, extra large. We got everything up to 5X. We got different colors. We got the black. We got the gray. We got the navy. We got the, I forget what they call this. I believe it's ash gray. And we got the darker gray. I believe that's the heather gray. All you got to do is pick your size and your color and do the rest. We also got female sizes. So for the females out there that want to represent the Hangout Spot, this is the link for the hoodies. And yeah, we also got the t-shirts, man. We got the t-shirts. We got the t-shirts. Let's go back to the t-shirts. Here we go. And for those of you guys that want a Hangout Spot t-shirt for less than $30, again, we got male and female, all sizes, all different colors. We got the black. We got the white. We got the all white. We got the gray. So this is where you can get your Hangout Spot gear, man. More gear to come. But for those of you guys, again, that have been looking or asking about t-shirts, this is where you can get it at, bro. The link is pinned to the chat. Please support your boy, man. We're going to be having more merchandise come out in the upcoming months. We're going to try to do joggers. We're going to try to do hats. We're going to try to do different logo ideas depending on the holidays. But yeah, please go and support and get yourself a Hangout Spot t-shirt or a hoodie. And that is that's the link right there, man. So millions.co. Appreciate them for reaching out, obviously allowing me to stream on the platform. They are now a partner of mine. And this is how we do, bro. We grow. We grow. We get bigger and better, man. This is only the beginning. We're also looking for some more sponsors. Let's not forget, whatsyourhustle.com is also a sponsorship now at the Hangout Spot. If you want to shop anything related to t-shirts, joggers, hats, hoodies, Two-Tone the Superstar has a t-shirt line up in there. Scrappy Ramirez, who we've had on the channel, he's going to be fighting on the Jake Paul undercard, by the way. That is official. That's going down on the Jake Paul versus Julio Cesar Chavez undercard. John Scrappy Ramirez, again, super flyweight contender. He's going to be on that card. He has a line, but again, all those t-shirts that you see me wear with the logos, the tank t-shirt, and all those other boxing themed t-shirts, if you want one of those, just go to whatsyourhustle.com and use discount code the Hangout Spot at checkout for 15% off your order. But I know you guys are going to represent because there's mad people. Yeah, Dedrick said gun gray. That must have been on one of the colors, right? I forget. It's either heather gray or gun gray or something like that. But we got all colors in t-shirts and hoodies. Again, go to the Millions page. Again, I linked it in the chat. And go and order yourself, please, man. Show some support. Go order yourself a Hangout Spot t-shirt or a hoodie, bro. We got to rock out, bro. We family, bro. Support the family, man. Let's get this shit popping. You guys been asking me, where can I get a t-shirt? Well, there you go. There you go. It's on the website right now. If you want to order right now, you want to order it as soon as the show is over. You want to order 2 t-shirts, one, you want to do a hoodie and a t-shirt, depending on let's get it popping. Let's get it popping, man. But yeah, man, if y'all rock out with me, I'd appreciate it if y'all show some support, man. Like I said, we're going to be adding more merchandise, but for now, we're going to start with the hoodies and the t-shirts. And we're going to rock out from there, man. But yeah, what y'all got, man? What y'all got in the chat, man? What y'all got in the chat? Wax, what's going on? Another fire interview. Appreciate you, chat, Wax, for rocking out. If you guys missed that interview and you're just now tuning in, make sure you go back after the show. After the show, the great Jim Lampley interview will be at the Hangout Spot. If you want to see it on YouTube, make sure you check it out on YouTube. And again, for those of you guys that are watching live on millions.co, you could also check it out on millions.co. I prefer, though, you come to YouTube because if you haven't subscribed, you could also subscribe because we're trying to grow this channel as well. We are also close to getting to our next goal of 2,000 subscribers. Let's see where we at. Let me see where we at right now. I got to see where we're at. So we are about 31 subscribers shy of 2,000, bro. We could do that. We could do that. We could do that in next week, bro. Let's not forget, tomorrow we got Keith Cologne, Tusami Cologne, who is an undefeated featherweight from New Jersey. Just won this past weekend. He'll be in the building tomorrow. We'll do a nice interview with him. And then after that, we will open up the phone lines. And then Thursday, we're working on another interview. If you're watching Anthony Arvelo from Undisputed, Corey Marksman, bro, let's get Corey Marksman on, man. My viewers want to see Corey Marksman, undefeated lightweight sensation. Just had a spectacular performance not so long ago at Caribbean Royale Orlando. His promoter is Anthony Arvelo, who was in the chat, Undisputed Promotions. Try to get me Corey Marksman, bro. Corey Too Smooth Marksman, who's from Florida, undefeated. We'll try to work on him. If not, we'll try to get him on next week and work on another interview Thursday. But even if we don't have an interview Thursday, what we'll do is we'll just open up the phone lines, bro. There's plenty of shit going on in the world of boxing. There's plenty of shit going on in the world of boxing, including Jaime Munguia's B sample came back positive. No surprise there. What happens now? They're claiming it was an accident, contamination. You know the deal. We've heard this story before. But what happens now? Does he get suspended? Do they take away that victory against Bruno Saras? That's crazy news that just popped off today. So a lot to talk about there. Richardson Hitchens with a great performance this past weekend against cooking George Kambosos, something that we called here at the Hangout Spot. What's next for him? There's rumors that he may be fighting Devin Haney next. We know after the fight he called out Devin Haney. F you, Bill Haney. F you, Devin Haney. I want y'all. Tio was in the ring and spoke about maybe a potential fight with Tio. Shout out to the Boxing Voice. Actually, Richardson Hitchens and his trainer were on there tonight. I saw a little bit before the start of this show. They just want a big fight. So there's plenty to talk about there. So there's just a lot of different shit to talk about. So if we don't get a guest on Thursday, what we'll do is we'll just open up the phone lines and we'll get the community involved, bro. We'll get the community involved, bro. Somebody said, can we get Bernstein? Al Bernstein? That's a good one, Tons. We're going to work on that. We are going to work on trying to get Al Bernstein on, bro. That's another legend calling fights on Showtime. Once again, make sure you check out the Hangout Spot merchandise on millions.co. The link is pinned into this chat. Clarissa got jokes. She said, that's crazy how you and Jim were at the same fight event between Ali and Liston.
This is nasty.
I ain't that old, Clarissa. You wildin' out. You wildin' out, bro. You wildin' out. Cal Mempo or call me MPO. I love to call you Cal Mempo. Cal Mempo, are you going to be at the Ring 3 card? I may. I may. How can you get an autographed copy of his book? Let me see what I can do for you, AB. Let me see what I can do for you, bro. Mo Brain said the Ring is reporting a no contest is likely. Yeah. I mean, that seems like the most logical solution, right? I mean, the dude did pop. The B sample came back. He popped. We all knew. I mean, these B samples, how many times do they usually come back when they don't pop? I think Alicia Baumgartner is probably the only one that I can remember. For sure. The boxing streets missed you. CJ, what's going on? CJ, if you just tuning in, bro, you missed one hell of an interview with Jim Lampley, bro. Make sure you check it out at the end of this show. Keyshawn didn't get paid. That's what happened. Oh, yeah, about the Keyshawn thing? Yeah. Yeah, I don't think he's going to get suspended. Bro, over that fiasco that happened at the end of the fight. Backstage near Nahir Albright. I don't think he's going to get suspended, bro. You know? But, this is boxing, bro. Shout out to my man, the Bandalorian. Big Boss, the Bandalorian, bro, with the $5. Salute to my OG Johnny, y'all. I'm beyond happy for you and proud of you. Also, people, Thursday morning, the Decapitator, Brian Norman Jr. collecting another skull. Can I get an amen?
Amen, brother.
And by the way, we are going to be going live. We're going to be doing a live fight chat for that. We're going to get up early. Now, we ain't going to do the whole card because I hear that the card starts at 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We ain't doing that, bro. We can't get up that early. Plus, honestly, I ain't going to front. I don't really know anybody on any of the undercard fights other than the two guys that are fighting in the main event, which is obviously a fight that I'm interested in, right? And shout out to everybody from the Boxing Voice that be throwing mad comments out there, trolling me, calling me the Norman Spot or whatever it is. I still got nothing but love for y'all. So we will be doing a live fight chat, but what we're going to do is we're probably right now from the emails and the information that I've gotten from certain people that are fighting in that main event, we believe that the ring walks are estimated as per ESPN, and this is an email that I got. The main event ring walks for that fight are estimated to happen around 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, that I could do. I mean, I was going to do that regardless. But I wasn't planning on going live to do a fight chat, but I'm going to do that. I don't think Ness is going to be on that morning. I think Ness is going to be away at his daughter's graduation. He's going to be out in the East Coast, so there's not going to be a Boxing Voice show on Thursday morning. So what we're going to do is we're going to get up super early. So we're probably going to go live about 6:45. Anywhere from 6:30 a.m. to 6:45. We'll do the live fight chat together, and then we'll open up the phone lines, man. We'll open up the phone lines and we'll do a show, man. And if we're on for 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours, I really don't care. So make sure you tell everybody in the Hangout Spot community, tell everybody in the Boxing Voice community that we're going live here at the Hangout Spot at about 6:30, 6:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to do a live fight chat for Brian Norman Jr. against Jin Sasaki in Japan. That is Brian Norman Jr.'s second title defense of his WBO welterweight championship. In fact, today, I believe, is the weigh-ins, and then tomorrow morning, it's on Thursday morning, it's on. So we'll be doing a live fight chat for that because I know that you guys were asking me about it. If I can get up at 4 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, I'm going to be here. Mo Bray, set your alarm clock, bro. Set your alarm clock. Let's make the sacrifice, bro. Let's get up in here. Let's talk that boxing shit. Let's do this live fight chat. Let's cheer for Brian Norman Jr., my guy. And then after that, we'll open up the phone lines, bro. We will open up the phone lines. And who knows? Shit goes down, maybe we'll be able to get one of them on live. Who knows? Who knows? You never know. You never know who's going to pop up at the Hangout Spot, bro. You never know who's going to pop up at the Hangout Spot. Chad said, I can't wait. I can't wait for that fight either, man. We're going to talk more about that tomorrow. We're going to talk more about that fight tomorrow. because it's going to be an interesting fight. And I'm telling you one thing, Brian Norman Jr. is coming to fight. And Jin Sasaki likes to fight. So I think this fight is going to be very, very entertaining for as long as it lasts. I'll give you guys my prediction tomorrow. May not be a surprise, but I'm going to give you my breakdown and prediction. We'll talk about that tomorrow after we get Keith Cologne. We get Keith Cologne on tomorrow. Tusami will be in the building, undefeated featherweight prospect who just won this past weekend by stoppage. Impressive win. So we'll have him on tomorrow. And then after that, we'll open up the phone lines, man. We will open up the phone lines, and then we'll be right back at it early morning, man, Thursday morning. And then we'll also do a night show. More than likely, we will do a night show as well because I'm looking to get a guest. There. Next week, we're also working on trying to get the legendary referee, Tony Weeks. We're trying to get Tony Weeks on. So we're working on a referee because, we do them all here at the Hangout spot, bro. All boxing figures, bro. It ain't just fighters and trainers, bro. And it didn't get any better than what we had today. The legendary voice of boxing, Hall of Famer Jim Lampley was at the Hangout spot today. And it was an amazing interview. I had a blast. But man, what else we got out here? What else we got? Anybody have any thoughts about Jaime Munguia in the chat? Chad said, any luck on getting 1212 Sports Society back? Yeah. We're going to get her back on the panel. We're going to get her back on the panel. If not tomorrow, hopefully we'll get her back Thursday. Yeah, hopefully Thursday evening. She's doing her own thing. Make sure y'all follow 1212 Sports Society. She's my sister. Great co-host when I can get her on, but, she's working on West Coast time too. So there's a lot of shit that she's doing, that's going down by her. Remember, I go live at 9 o'clock. That's 6 o'clock where she's at out in the West Coast. So, from a scheduling perspective, it's a little challenging, but she's committed to coming back. So we're going to try to get her back as well. Chad, you're always welcome as well. Investigate Eddie. I'm sorry. Eddie Reynoso, right? Yeah, man. Pretty crazy, bro. Munguia is a disgrace. Yeah, man. I mean, we're talking about a dude that never popped for a PED, and all of a sudden he go over to Camp Reynoso and Canelo, and he pops for a PED. That's nasty work.
It smelled like a toilet full of nasty ass shit, okay?
Yeah, man. My man Ralphie, what up, Ralphie? In the building. Appreciate you. If you did not get a chance to see that Jim Lampley interview, make sure you check it out, bro. It was absolutely legendary. He was here for an hour and a half, bro. And we talked about everything, bro. Bandalorian said the weigh-in is live now. Word, it is? Shit, I didn't even know that. Let's see if we could check that out. If you are watching this on YouTube, make sure y'all smash that like button, please. Again, the goal is to reach other boxing fans, to get this channel into their algorithm so that they know we rock out. Weeknights, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're also doing weekend shows as well to recap fights. Usually on Sundays, we're going to start doing more. We're going to start doing more recap shows after fights on a Saturday night. We'll go live right after that and do those call-in shows as well. Let me see if I can find this weigh-in. Let's see what's going on. Yeah, the weigh-in is actually right now. Shout out to you, Bandalorian. But I don't want to get flagged. Share my screen. I don't want to get flagged. Somebody's streaming this. Yeah, I don't want to get flagged. But yeah, the weigh-in is right now. The weigh-in is going down for Brian Norman Jr. and Jin Sasaki in Japan for the WBO welterweight championship. Eddie Alvarez said try to get Robert Garcia for an interview. Yeah, we're working on that. We're working on that. Yeah, Ralphie, definitely check it out. It was a great interview. You will not be disappointed. Jim is the man. Pound for pound king. What's going on, my brother? Thank you for rocking out. Appreciate you. Mandalorian, for letting me for putting me on to that. I did not know the weigh-in was going on right this minute. I would share my screen for us to watch together, but I don't know how this YouTube shit goes, and I don't want to get flagged. Y'all know how that shit goes. So yeah, it's going down right now. It is going down right now. The weigh-in. Malcolm, what's good? Malcolm, if you just getting up, bro, you missed a hell of an interview, bro. Jim Lampley was on with us for about an hour and a half, bro. We talked about everything, bro. It was one of the most enjoyable interviews that I've done since I've been doing this, and you guys know I've done a lot of them. It's getting to the point where I'm like, yo, which ones are your favorite? And I got a lot of favorites, but this is definitely probably on top of the list, man. Definitely. I mean, we're talking about a true legend of the sport, man. It was an honor. It was an honor to have him on. Yeah, I missed the replay game. I know you're gonna rock out. I know you're gonna rock out and check that out. The chat was cooking. Y'all asked great questions. I mean, it was dope. It was dope. I mean, Jim showed y'all love. He showed me love. You know what I mean? So I'm grateful. I'm forever grateful. And Malcolm, like I was telling the chat earlier, bro, I usually don't get nervous or worked up. For this one, I was a little nervous, bro. Again, it's not every day that you talk to a guy who you grew up listening to, who's a true icon, who's a true legend of the sport. Somebody who I idolize. So I was a little nervous, but once the interview started popping, and again we talked a little bit before we went live. Jim's a real dude, bro. He told me Roy Jones once told him, real recognizes real, real knows real, and he keeps it real, bro. He loves this sport. He loves fighters. He shows love to all the people that he's worked with and called fights for. I mean, bro, you got to check that interview out. Yeah, the HBO team was iconic. I miss hearing him as well, but hopefully he did commit that if he does get the call to work other fights, hopefully Canelo and Bud, I told him I'm gonna speak that into existence, that he would say yes. So that was dope. Alberto said, Johnny, that was a great interview. You did your thing. Thank Jesus. Yeah, no, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Alberto, I appreciate you rocking out. But yeah, that was a good one. I like that one. I'll be watching that one again. A lot of times I don't rewatch my interviews. Sometimes I do, because I'm my worst critic. So I will watch, or I used to watch more of them when I first started doing them. And I used to crap on some of my interviews, like, damn, what can I do better? I didn't like that. I hated that question. Maybe I could have led it with a better question. But at the end of the day, I'm so comfortable with them. I don't watch all of them, but this one I will watch again. That one I promise I will watch again. And somebody in the chat says shout out because I allowed them to cook. Y'all know how we do here at the Hangout spot, bro. We don't cut people off, bro. We let them cook. When I bring a guest on, we want to hear them. Y'all don't want to hear me. Y'all hearing me right now. Y'all probably getting tired of hearing me. So we cooked. We cooked in this interview. Yeah, man. So tomorrow, Keith Cologne will be on 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I expect another good interview, a great interview with another rising young prospect who's very, very exciting. He's undefeated. He just won by stoppage. Keith Tusami. He calls himself Tusami Cologne. He'll be in the building tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're working on trying to get undefeated lightweight Corey Marksman, who fights under the Undisputed Promotions banner. Undisputed, my man Anthony Arvella was in the chat earlier. And also send the super chat. I appreciate you, my brother. We're trying to see if we can get him on Thursday night. If not, we'll just open up the phone lines and we'll rock out together. We will be doing the Brian Norman Jr. live. Like I said, for those of you guys that are just tuning in, we will go live Thursday morning. The main event, as per Top Rank, is estimated ring walk time of 7:15 a.m. So what we'll probably do is we'll go live about 6:45 a.m. We'll get the coffee brewing. We'll go live. We'll talk that shit. We'll watch Brian Norman Jr. do his thing in Japan. And then after that, we open up the phone lines, bro. And if we need to go 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, I don't care. Because I'm taking the morning off probably. Feel me? Nah, I don't drink Bustelo. My mom used to. I just drink whatever's there. I throw the cup in the Keurig. And I do the coffee the easy way. But when my mom comes and visits, she does coffee the old-fashioned way, bro, with the strainer. That's why everybody loves my mom's coffee. What time, Johnny? Main event, 7:15. So what time in Cali? That is 4:15 a.m. Cali time. So I don't know if y'all getting up that early. 7:15 is the Eastern Standard Time of this fight, estimatedly starting as far as ring walks. Alberto, if you want to get up that early, you're more than welcome. But after the fight, I'm going to stay on, open up the phone lines, and we're going to talk about the fight. Hopefully, we're talking about a Brian Over Jr. stoppage and what's next. Hopefully, that's what we're talking about. Yeah, man, that strain of coffee hit different. Yeah. Shit, 4 a.m., man. So I don't know if you want to make that supreme sacrifice and set that alarm and see the assassin storm the norm, take care of business overseas in Japan in spectacular fashion, which is what I'm predicting, then get your ass up. And let's watch the future of the division. The man, future Boots opponent, or possibly Devin Haney. If y'all didn't see me, I was actually on the Boxing Voice panel last night. Bill Haney jumped on and asked me who I would want to Devin Haney to fight. And without hesitation, I said, I want Devin to fight Brian Orman Jr. next. What's up? And, Bill went, well, who is he fighting? Or, who else is on his hit list? I said, Devin Haney's on his hit list. He wants to fight Devin Haney. And Bill went around a little bit in typical Bill fashion. Shout out to Bill Haney because I love Bill Haney. And I like Devin Haney too, bro. I'm a Devin Haney guy too, but this is a fight that I want to see. Devin Haney against Brian Orman Jr. And I know they want that fight as well. So I said what I said. And then all of a sudden, Brian Orman Sr. popped up. And that was after all the people said that I had side texted him, which I did not side text him. I did not. He listens to the show. But, the chat was like, oh, he side texted him, the Johnny Norman Jr., the Norman spot, blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. He said, I'm going to be so sad for you if Brian Norman ends up with his TV off. Nah, bro. We can't feed that energy, bro. We win it in spectacular fashion. Call me MPO. You heard that yesterday, bro? Alberto hating, bro. We can't do that, bro. We cooking in Japan, bro. We cooking hibachi, bro. Thursday morning, make sure you're up. Set your alarm clock. If not, get up a little bit later. I'm going to be live, and I'm going to be taking calls, and I expect to be on for a few hours. So definitely come and rock out with your boy. But before we get to Thursday, again, we got to get to tomorrow night. So make sure you guys tune in tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are right back at it. Same bad time, same bad channel. If you guys haven't hit the like, do that. Please tell a friend to subscribe. Facebook, millions.co. If y'all watching this live, come on over and subscribe to the channel. We're back at it tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Last but not least, I put the link in the chat for my merchandise. Again, if you want to purchase a Hangout Spot t-shirt and support your brother, support the family, the DHS family, use this link and go and cop yourself a fly-ass Hangout Spot t-shirt. And I just put it in the chat again. Or a hoodie. And we got different colors, different sizes for both men and women. Again, show your brother some support. But as always, man, I appreciate the love. I appreciate the support. Thank you guys for rocking out with me. Hope you enjoyed tonight's show. Tomorrow, we're going to try to be even better for you guys. 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are right back at it. And as always, this is your boy Johnny signing out from the Hangout Spot Live. And I will talk to everybody tomorrow. Buy a shirt or a hoodie. Peace.